months ago, he wrote about it at Pieczenik.com. 3 weeks ago or so, he came out and said, watch, it's going to come out. He's been compromised by communist China. And sure enough, it was in the New York Times last Friday that Jared Kushner's tied into that. Now, he's got some breaking factoids. Former State Department head of psychological operations, worked with other agencies, was involved in regime change, you name it. Did the Camp David Accord successfully. Has a great pedigree, co-wrote books with, of course, Tom Clancy. He's also a medical doctor, psychiatrist, and military veteran. And that's Dr. Steve Pieczenik. I just invited him on the show to see what's going on. I don't know the topics he's got. Dr. Pieczenik, I know your family, your dad was in the French Army, World War II, got driven out. Some died in the Holocaust. Then you went to Cuba. Then you came here. You're uniquely, I think, vetted with the pedigree to speak about the wonders of communism on MAYDAY.
Well, as you know, there are no wonders of communism. My former assignment under Nixon and then under Reagan and Bush was to create the architecture for the takedown of the Soviet Union. I did that at the Rand Corporation, came back into the Reagan administration under Baker and then under Bush, and we were successful in taking it down without any soldiers. The reason is very simple. It's not that I'm all that great or we were great in regime change. It was that Soviet Union and communism just didn't work. And it was rotten from the inside. I had men who were walking in the streets at literally 7 in the morning, totally drunk. No jobs. They had factories which were making things that were not useful. The army was not very effective. The intelligence service could be bought off, so forth and so on. So communism, the notion of the left and the ideology of the left is all fine and good, but in reality, it has no credibility. It has no viability. It has no legs to stand on. So when you're young, you want to protest and rebel. The Jacobean Revolution was under Robespierre, did effectively bring in Napoleon. The Russian Revolution effectively brought in Stalin. Now, what I'm about to say is going to be a little disconcerting to you and your listeners, but it's very important for me to say this right now. The revolution you had started, Alex, had nothing to do with communism. It had to do with the voice of America and shifting us to the alternative right, or whatever narrative we want to use.
New right.
New right. The point I'm trying to make, and I wrote this several weeks ago, was the following. When Alex Jones gets compromised for whatever reason, I'm sorry you had to go to court. I saw that issue. Then I saw that Fox News was in trouble and Riley was compromised. Then I saw that Bannon was compromised. Now I see that Gork is compromised. So basically what we have now, Alex, is a counter-revolution, or basically what's happening in any revolution. It's what Hitler did in the Night of the Long Knives when he took care of his SA people and he exterminated them.
That's right. First, they politically shut down your voice before they physically shut you down. And when you use the word compromised, I'm not backing down or giving up under this organized assault.
That's why I state this to the audience and I say it to you. I wrote that and I still mean that you are the American icon. However, the orders came out. There's no question in my mind now. It came out of the White House because the Clintons could never do this. The left doesn't have that kind of intelligence. They don't have that kind of capability. But within the structure of McMaster, the National Security Council, and the fact that we're mobilizing both into North Korea, into Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, it became obvious to me that whatever orders came out of the Trump administration, whether it was Jared or it was McMaster, didn't matter to me. Basically, what it said is we're going to shut up the voices of the alternative right.
And now we see this gutting taking place, or this attempt to.
Well, the gutting, well, what I'm getting at is it's exactly right, Alex. You know this, I know this is the history of all revolutions, whether it's the left or the right. Immediately, those we bring to power, whether they're generals or civilians in the senior ranks, they have never been in the forefront of any revolution. Our generals, who are 3, 4 stars or whatever, they sit back, they use the system. Then when they get in the position of power, they try to eliminate any of the voices of agitation propaganda that comes out from you, that would have come out from Bannon, that would have come out from Gorka, that would have come out from any other people. From my point of view, this was part of the system, and I was waiting for it to happen.
So what do you think I should do about this?
Well, number one, the reason I'm coming on the show, one is to show my support to you. As I said, you're both a friend and you're an American icon. Number two, I think you should consistently maintain the dialogue that we, not Bannon, not Breitbart, not the Mercers, no one else, no other generals. There isn't one general who has the guts to come forth in a revolution. They're just not that way. They're socialized to be within their own system, almost a socialization system or socialism.
They're specialized in their own little paradigm to control them.
Correct. And the paradigm is a dangerous one because it demands a lot of money from us, the taxpayers, and at the same time, it's the expansion of, once again, Halliburton, KBR, they're all over Djibouti, they're all over Africa.
When's it going to end? They're always going to demand more from him, but they never compromise.
Well, that's correct, Alex. It has to now depend on the character of Trump. If, in fact, he's a man of his word, a man of his conviction, not mercurial, not suddenly waving around and bringing in the people he does not know, or bringing in Jared Kushner with the Steinmetz family and the Israelis and the Goldman Sachs boys, none of whom have been tutored in anything to do with national security, foreign policy. But we're structured now to be in a position of several wars at the same time. North Korea has been in a position where for the past 20 to 30 years, our military has developed what's called the 5027 plan or 5029 plan, where the Army, Navy, Marines, Special Forces can preempt an attack on North Korea. In Afghanistan, we have Marines going back in after our Marines were killed in exactly the same place. We have a 15-year war. We have Marines that were stationed, Special Forces, in Syria with artillery and with howitzers and soldiers. In effect, what we have is a military out of control, once again, which has never performed effectively. Never. Not since the Korean War, not since the Vietnam.
I realize, oh my God, they're only assassinating my character because they probably, I think, are beginning to move into the zone where they might trump something up, pun intended, or actually kill me. What do you think?
They're not going to kill you. There's no reason to kill you. They tried a verbal assassination. It didn't work. I mean, with all these nonsensical comedians, whether Colbert or Samantha Bee or whatever it was, no one listens to that anymore. It's antiquated. They're basically on their own sinking ship.
What do you expect them to do next? What do you see the next move being?
Well, what they're going to do next is try to expose any vulnerabilities that you may have again, or I may have, or any one of a number of people who are not following the trend or are not, succumbing to the military-industrial complex. You're talking about KBR in Djibouti having an incredible presence when we have no national security interests in Sudan, Somalia, or any of the African countries.
But there is an attempt to have a soft coup against the president. What do we do about that?
Well, and we go back once again. This revolution was started with a coup and then a counter coup, and right now they have a soft coup where they've taken over, and now I think Eric Jr. has to come into the forefront. I've repeatedly said that Jared has to leave. There's no question he's involved in corruption with the Chinese. There's no question he's involved in corruption with the Israeli family, the Steinmetz, who were already indicted for diamond smuggling and illegal activities. I'm saying this to the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. He knows very well that this family, the Kushner family and the Steinmetzes, are totally corrupt. We cannot have that in the White House. This is not a nepotism republic. This is a republic that fought its way by people like you, me, and others who went to war. Kushner never went to war. The Israelis never went to war with us. Mossad was 9/11. The Israelis were involved in 9/11. We have the neocons coming back. I am warning the administration again and again. I did not take the time and the effort and the liberty and the risk that others are willing to do to bring back the pathetic neocons like Elliot Abrams or John Bolton or any one of these morons that you're putting in there. If McMaster doesn't understand how he came to power because Tom Clancy and I gave him money in Armcath. He came to power because he sat on the boards of other companies. Mr. Mattis was on the board of Dynacorp. He was on the board of another company. If the generals really think they are that great, they better look into the mirror. They have never won a war. They have never taken down a regime, and they have failed repeatedly in executing any military action. This has been our history before Korea, before Vietnam. We lost 55,000 men because the generals were incompetent, ignorant, and they had a dereliction of duty. I go back to McMaster. This is a dereliction of duty. Anything he wants to do now and a force structure, bringing out the soldiers into North Korea and thinking that you can preempt an attack on North Korea when they're 30 miles away from Seoul is both idiotic and inept. At the same time, continuing a war for 15 years in Afghanistan, where thousands of our Marines were killed in Helmand Province, and then putting more Marines in is nothing more than a barbaric stupidity. At the same time, putting in artillery and howitzers into Syria when you have no idea who the Alawites are, you have no idea how many Christians that the Bashar family's protecting, millions of them, and you're going to do a regime change because you have some moron named Pompeo who's head of the CIA because he was #1 at West Point but had never been in intelligence, never been overseas, really never understood anything except...
More importantly, our listeners need to support your work, my work, and others' work as an act of resistance financially in the face of the attacks, the lawsuits, the kicking us off Google ads, you name it. Because, again, the attacks are intensifying. We're a beta test, and if they're able to shut down Infowars, the sky's the limit.
That's correct. I do agree with you, and they won't shut you down. They're not that stupid. If they're that stupid, then they're self-destructive. But if that happens, we will do an alternative channel. Don't worry, Alex.
Well, I mean, obviously, they got to kill me to totally shut us down. We're only growing. It's backfiring. What are they going to do then if it's backfiring?
No, they're not going to kill you because they don't want you dead. That would make you a martyr. They're not that stupid to make somebody a martyr, but they are that incompetent to think that they can put buttons on you, on Riley, on the Fox News, and on the other people who were involved, and then think that they could put pressure. Trump is not an innocent man. He has to grow up, he has to focus, and he has to be disciplined.
Just your brief message to Trump. Thanks for holding while I broke that down about saying, look, he's not without, sin. He needs to grow up. Go ahead.
The key here is he's got to get rid of Ivanka and he's got to get rid of Jared Kushner. If he wants to bring his family in, let him bring in Eric and Donald Jr. That's fine. They represented what we talked about. But let me tell you one statement. Hitler always said to his German public, who will ever remember the Armenian genocide? 1.3 million Armenians were killed by the Turks with the help of the Germans. And nobody ever remembered the Armenian genocide when the Jews were then rounded up, the Catholics were rounded up, the Protestants were rounded up, the Lutherans. Most people don't remember that the evisceration of Catholicism and Lutheranism started in the 1930s under Hitler. He could never have gotten to power if all the Lutheran priests had been there, or ministers, or even the Protestants. He put them all in Dachau. They were killed way before the Jews were. So I'm not saying we're in that situation. I am saying that America, stay alert, be prepared. The revolution's not over. Success is not given. You have to always earn that right to be an American. Our generals have not really understood that very well. They thought just by going into a battle and wearing a lot of fruit salad, that meant something to people like me and others who didn't need the uniform, who didn't need the fruit salad, who didn't need the pension, because we wanted to go out and fail and make ourselves a success in the American system, in the American democracy, and not sit on the board of directors of Northrop Grumman or L3 or SAIC. So it's time for us to continue and start breaking down the military-industrial complex and telling our generals, enough is enough. We're not sending our boys and girls and others to war so that they can be killed for your profit.
So again, when you said Trump's not perfect, obviously, do you think they've got him blackmailed?
I don't know whether they got it. I don't rationalize a man who's in power. He has to explain to me and to the American public what he's going to do, how he's going to accomplish it, and not become mercurial. He has to become the president of the United States, which means he has to focus, he has to be disciplined, he has to fire people, which he can't do, I understand from his past history, and he has to be able to stay on course. If he can't, then we'd be happy to replace him with someone else. But this can't continue.
Dr. Pieczenik, Pieczenik.com. I'm going to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Alex, and God bless.
God bless you.